At first glance, 30 East Drive in Pontefract, England, looks like any other ordinary house. Red brick walls, neatly trimmed hedges, a quiet street. But inside, something watches, something that waits. In the late 1960s, the Pritchard family moved in, dreaming of a simple, happy life. They found a nightmare. It began almost imperceptibly, a strange fall of white dust from the ceiling that no broom could chase away. Pools of stagnant water appearing on the kitchen floor with no visible leak. A house that seemed to breathe, groan, and shudder with a life of its own. Then came the sounds. Knocks, scrapes, thundering crashes that rattled the windows. Deep, wet breathing that filled the hallways after midnight. The walls, once silent, seemed to murmur in the dead hours before dawn. Lights exploded into darkness without warning. Rooms plunged into freezing cold, breath frosting in the air. A stench like rotting meat suffocated the family, clinging to their skin, their clothes, their dreams. Furniture shifted in the blink of an eye. Heavy dressers dragged themselves across the floor. Cabinets burst open. Household items launched themselves across rooms, shattering on impact. Outside, neighbors watched in horror as the house seemed to flicker and throb with a malign energy. Children whispered about the cursed home at the end of the street. And then it showed itself. A figure cloaked in black, featureless under its heavy hood. Sometimes standing at the foot of a bed, sometimes lingering just beyond a doorway, a darker shadow among the dark. It radiated hate. They called it Fred. Fred was no mischievous spirit. Fred was a predator. It chose a target, young Diane. The attacks were sudden and brutal. Diane was slapped hard enough to leave red welts, pulled from her bed. Lifted into the air, her screams strangled in her throat. Witnesses watched in frozen terror as she was hurled across the room like a doll. One night, something gripped her by the throat and dragged her, gasping, up an entire flight of stairs. Deep bruises, perfect, cruel fingerprints flared on her neck for days. The house responded to every attempt at defiance with rage. When priests came to bless the rooms, the walls bled a thick black fluid. Holy water only enraged it. Crucifixes were torn down and shattered. Dark symbols, scrawled by unseen hands, appeared on the walls. The black monk had claimed the house, and he was not alone. Historians had unearthed a grim tale. Centuries earlier, a renegade monk had been hanged for assaulting and murdering a young girl, a girl not unlike Diane. The gallows had stood where 30 East Drive now stood, a place of death long before the first brick was laid. As the attacks escalated, the air inside the house grew thick, heavy, and suffocating. Friends stopped visiting. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid walking past the cursed door. The Pritchards fought. They prayed. They refused to surrender. Until they had no choice. By the early 1970s, they fled, leaving their dreams, their belongings, and a part of their souls behind. Yet the house did not forget. Even today, those who dare enter 30 East Drive report the same horrors. Scratches appearing on bare skin, guttural growls from the darkness, objects moving with violent purpose, a suffocating sense of being watched and hated. Some visitors are driven out in hours. Some never speak of what they saw. Some say the black monk waits, his rage undiminished, his hunger unsatisfied. Some say the house itself is alive now, and if you dare cross its threshold, you may not leave alone. This is Lore, Lies, and Truth. Subscribe for more terrifying true stories. Every week, we journey deeper into the darkness.